Abia, Mamanu, Kwenu, Kwezenu. I feel at home now. Thank you very, very much. I am so very delighted to be here. I want to thank His Excellency, Dr. Okeze Ipazu, for consenting that I be invited to speak at this special program. I want to thank the Speaker, SSG, other senior members of government, the Chief of Staff to the Governor. Also, a good man. I've heard a lot about him, and I'm delighted to also make his acquaintanceship. Commissioner for Information, other senior government officials, I thank everyone. And of course, our royal fathers who are here, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I was delighted to see bright Chibeze still looking so young and strong. When he came in and we greeted, I said, police here, he's committing suicide, you. That's the song I've heard for more than 30 years. I wish that was the song he took when he came up here. But thank you, Governor. You obviously are taking good care of him. He's looking very well. And it's good to take care of our heroes like that. The program is Abia Social Media Converge. And I must say it's a very brilliant idea, a social media converge, because whether we like it or not, the social media is part of our lives. We may not like it, we may like it, but we cannot ignore it. The social media is there, whether you like it or not. What you then use it to do will be very important, and that is what we will talk about in the minutes ahead of us. So, Abia Social Media Converge, and the theme is social media for good governance. Social media for good governance. I'll say this theme is a theme of the hour. Everywhere, all over the world, the social media is an issue. In the American election, you know the role it played. Not just in the 2019 election, even in the 2015 election. All over the world, in Nigeria, you know the role that the social media played. Marginally in 2015, but to a significant extent in 2019. Let me tell you an experience I had. You know, before the 2019 election, if all that you followed was the social media, you would think APC government was gone at the center. If all you followed was the social media. As a media advisor to the president, I had a duty to keep track of what was being said in both the traditional media and the social media. And I saw the trend in the social media. There is a large army on social media that was giving the impression that they only needed to wait for election day and the APC government was gone at the center. Naturally, I got worried as a media advisor to the president. So one day, the governor of Kaduna State came to the villa. I was coming out of the president's office when he was going in. And I said, Excellency, please, when you finish with Mr. President, can you stop over in my office? I have something to discuss with you. And truly, after about 30, 40 minutes, Governor El Rufai came. After he sat down, I expressed my worry to him. I said, I've been monitoring social media. And it's like, this election is not going to be easy for us, that we may not win it going by the trend. He laughed. and he opened his laptop and showed me the report of a scientific study that had been concluded. Very scientific, with sample size from around the Federation. I'll just tell you the conclusion of that report. The conclusion of the report said the social media will account for 11% of votes in 2019 election. 11%. But you would think that it was going to be 90% from all that was going on. That report said it will account for 11% of the votes. And then, you know another thing, he said out of that 11%, this percentage will be shared between APC and PDP, while the other fringe parties will share this percentage. So it meant that even in the 11%, not one party will have it. They will share it, of the 11% votes. That is what can happen with social media. It will give you a perception that is not real. And if you follow that perception 100%, you will be deceived. We all know what happened in that election. Just as that report predicted, that was how it happened. What the social media constituted was not more than 11% of the voters. And that 11% was shared by the different parties. And you saw that APC won with a higher percentage than it did even in 2015. I'm not being partisan at this event. I'm just citing it as an example to buttress the theme we want to look at. Social media for good governance. In other words, if the social media could seemingly have mobilized the populace to go in one direction in their votes, that same thing can then be used for good governance. That is what we will be trying to say this evening. There are many possibilities from the social media. Many possibilities. Good, bad, ugly, not so fine. Many possibilities. When we talk of social media, what exactly do we refer to? We mean all websites and applications that give users the ability to create and share content. That is what we mean by social media. Websites and applications that give users the ability to, one, create, and two, share content. You can create content yourself, you can share content yourself. That's social media. That's why it is called social. Unlike traditional media, which only allows a select group of gatekeepers to share content. For a larger part of my life, we had the MC when he gave my profile. I've been a newspaper man. I had been in the newspaper world for 33 years before the president invited me to be his media advisor. And by the grace of God, I had risen to the position of MD Editor-in-Chief, the highest position possible in the newspaper world. So, when I'm talking about gatekeeping, it's something I know, because it's something I did for a larger part of my career. What the editor decides will be published is what gets published. Reporters can be in the field all over the country and beyond. They can file their reports. But at the end of the day, the editor decides this is fit for publishing, this is not fit for publishing. That is the gatekeeping role of an editor. But in social media, you are your own reporter, you are your own sub-editor, you are your own editor. You do everything. You generate the content, you edit it, and you post. No gatekeeping. So if you want to lie, all well and good. If you want to malign anybody, all well and good. In the traditional media, if you publish something that is not substantiated, the person you published it against can decide to go to court. He can sue for libel and he can win. And if you can't pay, your publishing house can be closed down. But this man online, you don't know whether the name is even using is his real name or is a fake name. The address he has there may not exist anywhere. So, who are you going to sue? You can't hold him. You can't complain to the police. You can't take him to court. On social media, the person can create and share without anybody playing a gatekeeping role. If you want to contribute to the traditional media, whether newspaper or television or radio, you send your content to them. And somebody will look at that content and he will decide, is this publishable or not? Can this be aired or not? And somebody takes a decision. And that is a professional decision because that person had been trained and he has gone through the rungs of the ladder in the profession. He has the benefit of experience. But with social media, somebody who has never done a news report in his life, who does not know the 5 serving servants, as they call them in news writing, he can just sit in the corner of his room and create a story. And then he will say, when we got in touch with the spokesman of Governor Okeze Ekpazu, they didn't answer their phone. And he will post it. And it's all lie. It's all lie. That is what happens with social media. You can sign up on any platform, create and post your content. And other people will then engage with your content as they deem fit. Do you know that the more ridiculous the content, the more salacious the content, the more people will share it? You know, bad news tends to have a life of its own in a short time. In a very short time, bad news. If you post a good news, developmental news, it takes an effort for it to move. It's sluggish, it drags. But post something negative, it goes viral within minutes. People are sharing and resharing and sharing and resharing and sharing and without authenticating it. Is it true? Can it be justified? Or is it meant to damage somebody's integrity? They don't care. They begin to share it immediately. Nobody needs the permission of any editor or gatekeeper. And the communication can flow from any user to other users. It is an all-commerce affair. During the 2019 American election, I was doing a research on the role the social media played in that election. And I saw something online that a positive story about the election will get maybe 1,000 or 2,000 shares and visits by internet users. But a negative story, which is likely fake, will get 1 million, 2 million shares and visits. It shows that even people like negative stories more than positive. Post a story today about the second Niger Bridge, which by the grace of God in 2022 will be commissioned. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But post a certain story about somebody they call one Jubril of somewhere. And they begin to share and share and share and share and share and share. So it shows you that people themselves, their appetite for fake news, for bad news is keener than good news, than developmental news. The most popular social media platforms in Nigeria are WhatsApp. WhatsApp, if you want something to go fast, just like wild bushfire, within minutes, put it on WhatsApp. You will see how people will be sharing. Somebody will sit down and he will share with about 100 or 200 people on his WhatsApp. Doesn't care whether it's true or not. WhatsApp. The next one is Facebook. Facebook, after WhatsApp, it has the largest number of users in Nigeria. And then the next one is Twitter. Twitter has the benefit of immediacy. Tweet now, and in the very next 5-10 seconds, it's everywhere. Twitter is also widely used. And then another one is Instagram. Instagram. Put anything on Instagram, and it develops a life of its own. Many young people also use platforms like Snapchat and TikTok. That is more common among the younger generation. Social media, like all other media, is itself a neutral platform that can be put to good or bad use. Social media can be put to good or bad use. Remember what is now popularly known as the Arab Spring. Arab Spring, in which the Arab nation rose like one man against his leadership. How did it start? There was a young graduate in Tunisia. His name was Mohammed. A young graduate, but he had no job. For many years, he had no job. So he began to sell vegetables, carrots, onions, all those things beside the road in Tunis. His case was bad enough that after university education, that was the job he was doing. Then one day he was beside the road selling his vegetables when the task force, like our task force here, the task force came and seized his wares. Everything he was selling, they seized it. And they threatened to even prosecute him if he was not careful. What did Bouazizi do? He just took petrol, poured it upon himself, and lit a match. That was how he burned to death. And that was the beginning of what became the Arab Spring. What that young man did that day created so much anger in Tunisia that the people rose against their government. And eventually the then President Ben Ali had to flee into exile. That happened in Tunisia. It crossed the border. And it went into Libya. Libyans who had lived under Gaddafi for 42 years. And Gaddafi had a stranglehold on the country. They all rose. They rose against Gaddafi. And you know what eventually happened in October 2010? He was killed. Till today, Libya knows no peace. It all started from social media. Because when Bouazizi set himself on fire, what Tunisians used to mobilize one another was social media. They began to call on one another on social media to come out and chase away the dictators. And the president had to flee. From Libya, it moved into Egypt. It moved into Egypt. And you know for how many days they occupied that square. What is it called? Is it Tahrir Square or something? There was that square in Egypt. And the people just occupied that square for many days until they forced the president out of power. From Egypt, it moved into Yemen. From Yemen, it moved into Syria. Syria still knows no peace today. Yet, Syria was calm until the Arab Spring, when the social media was used to generate insurrection against the leadership of that country. So you see the power to mobilize in social media. But then the question is, What do we use that power for? What do we use it for? Power can be used for good or for bad. The power of social media can be used to develop our country. It can be used for good governance, and it can be used to cause chaos. To cause chaos. We recall the NSAS that happened in October. You know that the social media was used to a large extent to mobilize people. That shows you the power inherent in the social media. It is what you deploy it for that it gets used for. It is human beings who decide what they want to use the social media for. To build up or to tear down. To unite or to divide. To progress or to retrogress. The same WhatsApp that people use for business promotion and client engagement in other parts of the world is what others use to spread fake news. WhatsApp is used in other parts of the world for business purposes. There are people who have become millionaires and multimillionaires using WhatsApp. But here, it is the house of lies. It is the house of fake and false news. Things I see on WhatsApp at times, I take with a pinch of salt. There was a time now, they just said President Buhari's daughter was going to get married, and they put a date and they put a time. I saw it. So it was a Sunday when I read it. The following Monday, when I went to see him in the office, I said, Mr. President, congratulations, I see that there's going to be a wedding in the family. He said, who told you? I said, I saw it on social media, I even saw the date. He said, don't mind them. Whether they are the one giving out my daughter or me, we need to know. They just created that news. And they put a date and time to that wedding, which was not true. The young lady eventually got married, but not at the time they had put on social media. So you see that people just create things and they put it out and sell lies to people. The same Facebook that people use to reconnect with their friends from long ago is what election manipulators use to try to negatively influence the outcome of elections. You know, there are countries that have tried to influence the outcome of elections using Facebook. And it has got to a point that Facebook has even stopped taking political materials that are too expressive. They will pull it down if you post it. Remember that before the last American president left, Twitter had pulled down his account. Even Facebook, they stopped taking things from him because they saw that it was being used for purposes that can send America into a tailspin. That's what social media can cause. How is social media used negatively? I'll give some examples. And you know I have personal examples. Plenty. If you don't know me, if the Femi Adesina you know is the Femi Adesina of social media, you would think I have 2 horns on my head. And when you saw me today, you'll have been saying, where are the horns on his head? No horns. It's not you at all. She was crying. And I said, don't cry. Do you know it's not me? She said, yes. I said, that's all right. Once you know it's not me, then forget them. Forget them. They have created a different person entirely, different from me. Last Sunday, about this time, I went to my cousin's house. I met one man there, a former commissioner in Oyo State. As we were talking, he said, I was somewhere one day, And they were talking about you. And I couldn't believe that it is you that I know that they were talking about. He said after some time, he asked them, do you know this Femi Adesina? No, none of them could answer that he knew me. And then he told them, watch what you say. Don't believe things you read on social media about people. Because they create a complete different personality, different persona from the real person. One day, my phones began to ring. People will call and they say, are you okay? I'll say, you hear my voice, I'm okay now. They will drop. I began to get calls like that. Till eventually, my brother, who lives in Ibadan, called. I said, are you all right? I said, I'm all right. I'm at home. Where are you? I'm at home. They said, you are in an isolation center. I said, me? Me? Somebody that you know and that I know had posted it on social media that Femi Adesina is down with COVID. One, COVID is not a death sentence. Unfortunately, some people have lost their lives to it. But we also know people that God has had mercy on, like His Excellency. Yes, Excellency, bravo. He had it. He recovered. Thousands of people recovered. For every 10 persons that die, about 10,000 have recovered. So, why did that person go online that day to say Femi Adesina has COVID? I just saw that people began to call me and say, how are you? Are you fine? Where are you? Until my brother said, go and read what this person said. And I checked online and I saw that he said that he was down with COVID. It never happened. That is what they use the social media for, to promote hatred, to cause confusion, to cause discord in the country. And you ask yourself, why? What do they want to gain? What do they want to gain? I have seen many pictures of myself on social media. One, they took my real photo and they created a big giant Indian hemp like this and put it in my mouth and I was smoking it. You see, I couldn't believe it. I don't smoke cigarettes. I don't take alcohol. That is not my lifestyle. Some people will see it and they will think it's real. One day, I saw another one on Twitter. My real picture. They have put eyebrows, put lipstick, put all sorts of things on my face. That is what they do. One day I wrote an article and I said, those who talk of insecurity in the country must know that in wartime and warfare, victory belongs to God. Therefore, let's begin to pray for our soldiers, that they can make an end of this insurgency. I pointed to Joe Biden the day he was inaugurated. When he ended his speech, he said, God bless our troops. But in Nigeria here, instead of praying for our troops, they are always saying bad things about them and abusing them and calling them cowards, that they are running before Boko Haram. I said, let's pray for our troops. Now, one newspaper wrote a news story, otherwise reputable newspaper that has become more like a rag sheet now. He wrote a story and said, Buhari does not owe Nigerians anything on security again. It is God they must call upon. That story, is it the same thing I wrote? I'll say something, they will twist it. They will take a negative perspective and try to change the meaning of what I have said. That is the negative uses they put the social media to. In January last year, unfortunately, one CAN chairman in Adamawa State was beheaded by the insurgents. And CAN, Christian Association of Nigeria, said what I considered very unchristian. They issued a statement saying President Buhari is collaborating with insurgents to deplete the number of Christians in Nigeria. Does it make sense? It doesn't make sense. So I wrote a piece on it. When I was going to see a twisting of that piece, Somebody just put on Facebook, beheading. No, beheading is better than suicide bombing. Femi Adesina. And people, see how people began to abuse me, cursing me, and doing all sorts of things. They didn't bother to find out the original thing I wrote. They never will do. They never will do. The intention of the person who twisted what I wrote was then accomplished. They began to wail and shout and howl and say all sorts of things for what was not true. The social media is often used to run people down, to run them down. The day the president came in 2017, I think August 19, from his medical vacation, that was the last day, you know. He left in January, he came back in March, stayed a few days, then went again, and came back finally on August 19. That day, the immediate past chief of defense staff, General Onishakin, was giving out his daughter in marriage. So, I attended the marriage. You know, usually, more often than not, I dress like this. But that day, because it was a wedding, I decided to wear agbada and cap. So I went to the church. And from the church, I went to the airport to receive the president. Because from the church, we went to reception. President was to land about 4 p.m. Then I went straight to the airport. By then, the news of Jibril of Sudan was everywhere, that the person coming back was not Muhammadu Buhari, it was one Jibril of Sudan. We were at the airport. The president came down. Usually we will line up according to hierarchy. He greeted some people before me. When he got to me, he said, Adesina, this is the best I have seen you dressed. Did Jibril know me? Did Jibril know me? So if it was Jibril, how did I know I was Adesina? This is a man I see like every day. And we talk. Won't I know if it was another personality? Yet, that story of Jibril of Sudan, even some professors believe it. Professors of science, they believe it. And they share it. And they say the person in the villa is not the president. You see that we did not answer them because it doesn't make sense. It's foolish. It's odious. That's why we didn't answer them. But you will find otherwise respectable people sharing it. That is what they use social media for, to propagate hatred in the country. Instead of building the country and holding it together. You see that today, the unity of our country is badly threatened. And what do they use to propagate that hate? Social media. Social media. In Shasha area in Ibadan, 2 days ago, they started killing people from a certain part of the country and propagating it on social media, sharing it, sharing the photo. Now, you are killing those people. Your own people are in that part of the country. What if they start killing your own people there? What becomes of the country? Instead of using the social media to propagate unity, we have what we call unity in diversity in Nigeria. We are a diverse country, minimum of 250 ethnic groups. They now use social media to establish and pronounce the things that separate us as a country. We need to be careful. The battle against COVID-19. You know, the social media has been used to propagate a lot of negative things. Some even say coronavirus is for the rich. It's for the upper class. So they have created a we against them position, which is not true. Some have said, oh, they are using coronavirus to steal money, which is not true. Nigerian government has fought coronavirus admirably. Even the UN has commended Nigeria's approach to coronavirus. But Nigerians themselves, no. They use the social media to run down the effort of the government to contain the virus. Of course, we know what they have done with the security situation in the country? With social media. With social media. The service chiefs that just left, you may have your idea, but my idea is that they did their level best at a very difficult time in this country. But there is something about man that loves to see people fall from certain positions. They just love them to fall. And that was why there was that noise. Remove them, remove them, remove them. So that they can gloat. Oh, they have kicked them out. They have kicked them out. There is something about man, particularly the Nigerian, that loves to see people in elevated positions fall. And we need to check ourselves because we use the social media to now propagate that mindset. Let's check ourselves. Another thing the social media is used for negatively is destructive criticism. Destructive criticism. At times I pity people like His Excellency the Governor. I pity Mr. President. The volume of destructive criticism they are exposed to on a daily basis is simply mind-boggling. If Mr. President is not somebody that closes his eyes and closes his ears to certain things, he will not get anything done in 8 years. He will not get anything done. And these same people who mount this destructive criticism will be the first to jump up and say, yes, what did he achieve in 8 years? They won't say we were the one who distracted him and didn't allow him to concentrate. But you see, despite criticisms, Mr. President is building Second Niger Bridge, he's building Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, he's building rail around the country, he's building Enugu-Port Harcourt Road, he's building Boni-Bodo Road that has been abandoned for 50 years. He's doing so many things because he has learned to close his ears to criticism. Why don't we encourage those who lead us to do the work they have been elected to do? Rather, it is negative, negative, negative at all times. Social media is used for destructive criticism. Now, let's come to the crux of this presentation. Remember, our theme is social media for good governance. How can we now use social media positively? Positively. And the number one point I would like to make is that we must be sensible and responsible in our usage of social media. Personal responsibility. Some people talk about muzzling the press, censoring the press. There is a censoring that is good, and it is the censoring you do of yourself. Learn to censor yourself in the usage of social media. Censor yourself. Subject anything you want to do. You know the four-way rotary test. Is it the truth? Will it build goodwill and better friendship? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? All those four questions. Why don't you ask yourself those four questions before you share anything on social media? If somebody posts a lie now, and you begin to share that lie, you know you are vicariously guilty of that lie. So, to use social media for positive things, let's start with self-censorship. Censor yourself. Censor yourself. Before you share, why don't you check and cross-check? Before you share, check and cross-check. I learned that lesson long ago from my media work. One day we got an invitation, we got an information that one local government chairman in Enugu State was arrested with a truckload of AK-47 rifles. Local government chairman. Truckload, trailer, AK-47. I was the sitting editor of Daily Sun then. I got that information from what you can call a very reliable source. In fact, that source was reliable enough for me to just go to press without cross-checking. But I decided to temporize a bit. Tafa Balogun was the IG. I knew him. I had direct access to him. I called him, Mr. IG, this is the information we have. This local government, I gave his local government, I gave his name. He said he was arrested with a trailer load of AK-47 rifles. Tafa said, in this country where I'm IG, something like that will happen and I won't know. Wait, let me check. I'll get back to you. Later that evening, he hadn't got back to me. The source who gave us the information called me, was putting pressure on me to go to press immediately. I said, no. Please, calm down. Let's calm down a bit. I've spoken to the IG, he will get back to me. Late that night, I had made up my mind. I would not publish the story until the IG got back to me. Later that evening, about 7, 8, we were getting ready to go to press. I had not listed the story. The IG now called me back and said, oh, Femi, I've checked the information. It is true that a local government chairman was caught in Enugu with one pump action rifle. Pump action rifle, and he has a license for it. Compare that information with a trailer load of AK-47. That is the thing social media does. That kind of story that was about to be planted on me as an editor, plant it on people using social media. Zoom, they go ahead. They go ahead. They will malign that local government chairman. They will cause unnecessary panic in Enugu State. They will cause panic in the country. A lot of noise will be made. Yet, the information was not correct. So, we see that we have a responsibility to guide ourselves in our use of the social media. Check and recheck again. There is one dictum in journalism: when in doubt, leave out. That was what I did with that story of AK-47 rifles. When in doubt, leave out. Once you have not been able to confirm it, leave it out until you get the confirmation. But social media does not respect that. Once they get it, they slam it. There are laws that guide social media usage so that you do not run foul of them. For example, there is what is called the Cybercrime Act of 2015, which criminalizes cyber threats, cyber terrorism, online impersonation, cyber stalking, and distribution of racist or xenophobic material. But what do you see on social media today? All these things are there. All the things that have been criminalized by Cybercrime Act of 2015 are on social media. But let the security agencies hold one person who has run foul of this law. The noise you will hear, they are muzzling the press. Freedom of expression. They are muzzling freedom of expression. Does freedom of expression allow you to cause chaos in society? Does it allow you to lie and throw society into a panic? Don't you know that by some of the things you publish, riots can start in different parts of the country? So those who use the social media have a responsibility to censor themselves positively. Social media can be used positively, but please censor yourself. Number 2, you can use social media to hold government to account. You can use it to hold government to account. In Abia State, you have a right to ask Governor Ikazu, what have you done? I heard that he just commissioned 10 roads recently. You know, some people will go on social media and no road exists in those 10 locations. That's what they will say. Now, when you have used social media to deride, to destroy, to abuse, to lie against government, how then does government take you serious? As a feedback mechanism. Do you know that the social media should be a feedback mechanism for government? We have a social media unit. Whenever I see any of them, my first question is, what are they saying online? Because it's a good feedback mechanism for us. But if all that they say is lie, is concoction, is abuse, is verbiage, I'll stop taking them serious. Just like when I told the president, oh, there's going to be a wedding in the family. He said, where did you hear it? I said, on social media. He said, forget them. If you don't say good things, you lie, you create stories, the feedback government should get from you is lost. Because when you have a true feedback, is lost amid the lies you have told. In Abia State here, you can create a platform which will be a veritable feedback from the government. The governor himself will go to that platform and say, what are they saying here? And he will take vital lessons from there and correct certain things and do some things in a better way. But how will he do it if all that you do is abuse government, is lie, is create fake news? Then you lose the opportunity of that feedback mechanism. So avoid lies, avoid insults, avoid destructive criticism if you want to use the social media as a feedback mechanism. 3, social media is useful for drawing the attention of government to things that require their intervention. There may be the need for an urgent intervention by government. The fastest way you can do it is through the social media. But if you have been used to lying and insulting your government, they won't take you serious. Information you put on social media must be factual and directed to the right channels before government can make positive use of it. Number 4, for young people, there's a lot of self-development that can be done on the internet. You can learn an infinite amount of skills and courses on the internet. We can play all our part in advancing good governance in Nigeria by developing our skills and talents to the best of our abilities. You know what somebody told me one day? He just chanced into one big building in Abuja. I think he went to a wrong place. That was not where he was going. But he had entered a big hall like this. And what did he see? Young people all sitting before laptops. They had been contracted by some politicians to lie against their opponents. And all of them were typing furiously, typing furiously. If they finish typing, they will release it. They will finish typing, they will release it. You know the volume of fake information they will release in one day. The volume of fake news they will release in one day. Now, when there's positive news, who will take that news serious? Because there is too much false news out there. There's a saying that base coin, bad coin, tends to drive good coins out of circulation. If you let good coins flood the market, they will drive the good coins out of circulation. That is also what happens with the social media. Abia State is known around Nigeria and beyond as a bastion of innovation and creativity. Your shoes and clothes are world famous, among other things. Social media can be a tool for learning how to improve the quality of your products, also for finding new markets. There was a time that made in Aba was like a pejorative description. No more. No more. Because Nigerians were learning to use the things we produce. And we know that Aba is strong on the production of certain things, shoes and clothes. I think there was a time the governor was engaging with the military on how to make military boots for them. We should use social media to advance those things. But some people, all they do is post negative things about things made in Abia. That would not be good. The last part of this presentation, government and social media, I will make 3 points and then close. One is for government. Social media should be seen as a creative and credible feedback tool where the citizenry can comment and contribute to governance. That is the way it should be. Citizenry. That is why it's called social media, interactive media, where the citizenry can comment on activities of government. They can contribute to governance in that way. But you have to make the effort to sieve through the feedback, as not all of it will be constructive or useful. The feedback today, the effort you will make to sieve through them is even too much. Because the quantum of fake and negative news there is too much, more than the things that are positive. Number two, government agencies should endeavor to be officially active on social media platforms and regularly share updates on their activities. My friend and brother, the Commissioner for Information, have a strong social media team. Be on all the platforms of social media. WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, use everything. They use those things against you. You too, use them positively. Very important. And then number three, and finally, events like this, social media converge, which is with His Excellency the Governor in attendance, should be encouraged as a way of bringing various stakeholders together to discuss how to maximize the advantages and minimize the downsides of social media. Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, the social media has plenty downsides, but it also has tremendous advantages. Let us begin to use and play up the advantages of social media for the good of our state and for the good of our country. Thank you very much.